Good morning. Let me just jump in this morning. The title that I've selected for today's video is Truth-Based Solutions Require Grace. And the blurb that I wrote as I came out of the meditation room is this. I was impressed with the video Peter van Runt made of the Sydney Australia Monsanto demonstration rally because it was education and solution based, unlike the one here in Melbourne, Florida. In fact, throughout the day yesterday, and again this morning, I've been pondering the concept of solutions. To me, solutions are responses to perceived problems. In other words, the first step in finding solutions is necessarily recognizing a problem. That's easy in our world. We can see lots of problems, as long as we do not keep our heads in the sand. The problem is, we have been brainwashed to believe that focusing on what we don't want, the problem, only gives us more of the same. Perhaps I still don't get it. I still think telling the truth, even about what we don't want, is an essential part of the process. And I give myself the grace to tell myself the truth as I see, feel, and experience it. Honest communication is essential as I see it. Of course, many of us that are waking up realize that everything is energy. We've been told again that what we focus on expands, and oftentimes that is the excuse we use to not face the issues that are present in our life and in the world around us. We figuratively put our heads in the sand and we say, I don't want to look at that because if I look at it, it's only going to get worse. And we lie to ourselves that somehow by ignoring the problem, it will go away. As I watched the two videos, the long one that Peter did in Sydney, Australia, I was impressed that they were not just pointing out the problem, namely genetically modified foods and its effect, but they were educating the people in regard to what the problem is and solutions that can be and in fact must be taken if we are to survive as a people on a planet that sometimes seems threatened by the carelessness of those who would wantonly just take everything and not give back and not think ahead. In fact, sometimes I believe that our leaders are the most thoughtless people on the planet. I mean, they just don't get it. They keep creating unsustainable problems, unsustainable things that they do create problems that won't go away unless we direct our attention on them and make different decisions, make new choices. This, after all, is the opportunity to create a new paradigm here in 2013, and it's been going on for at least the last it's been going on forever, but I mean, it's been accelerating since 2011. So for the last 2.5 years, it's really been picking up steam, and people are becoming more and more and more aware of what's wrong in our world, whether it's the wars all over the planet that are run by bankers, that are run by our governments, that are run by the very people, the very corporations like Monsanto that seem to have a death wish, not a life wish. I mean, they want to save themselves, hence they have a food bank of natural foods, but they're willing to contaminate the food of all of the whole planet if they could get away with it. But that's just one of many problems that we're becoming aware of. Many people still aren't aware. So bringing the problem to the attention of people is actually an educational process. People didn't even think about it. What's a GMO? I mean, somebody going down the street at the Melbourne demonstration. I mean, many people beeped their horns, including truck drivers and others. And the fire truck that went by at one point, the person in the passenger seat was trying to get the driver to pull the siren, but he didn't do it, probably protecting his job. But many people probably looked at this and what's GMOs? Maybe they might be curious enough to do some searching on the internet. But if they're getting their news from the TV, chances are they won't hear much about it, and certainly not anything that would tell the truth. And telling the truth to me is the absolute essential thing in the awakening. And that begins with telling ourselves the truth about our own feelings, our own experience, telling ourselves the truth about what we want and what we don't want. And what we want is often we're not even aware of what we want, unfortunately, until we recognize what it is in our lives that we don't want, that we don't like, that doesn't feel good. We don't even begin to examine what it is we want and look for what it is we want and define it until the problem sometimes gets so bad that we have no choice but to focus on it and say, hey, this isn't a good thing. And I think it's really important. It's important for me. And I have to continually remind myself, it's important for me to tell my truth. First, again, to myself, but I choose to share it with whoever listens, with the world, if the world tunes in. I choose to tell the truth. I choose to say it like it is in my life. If fear comes up, I don't think I'm going to get more of what I fear by expressing my fear, even though that's a belief system that's current in our age that tries very hard to get us to lay guilt trips on ourselves if we pay attention to something that's, quote, labeled negative. Yes, being aware of the negative is what leads to the positive. Marching against war, against GMOs, regardless of what Mother Teresa said, is absolutely essential in the awakening, because you have to start somewhere. And if you start with ignorance and you start with complacency, the only way you can find a solution to ignorance and complacency is by becoming aware and getting involved. Otherwise, nothing changes. Nothing changes until we're willing to make the hard changes in our lives necessary to produce the new paradigm, to produce the life and the world that we really want. And do you not want a world, honestly, do you not want a world that works for everybody, where everybody can win and nobody loses? Is that not a desirable thing? Well, if you think the world is overpopulated and that's only going to create greater population, well, then you're brainwashed, just like most people in the world still are. Brainwashed, including the elite. They're brainwashed. That's why they make the choices that they make. They think that money can buy them the world. And by far and large, they've been correct. The world turns on money. But we are becoming aware of the monetary system and its corruption and its fraudulence. And we're waking up. We're saying no more. If you stand for anything, you have to stand against that which threatens the thing you're standing for. If you want security, you have to stand up for truth, because there can be no security based on lies. It just won't happen. It can't happen. You need the truth to set you free. We all do. We all do. But we need to get beyond this programming, and I think it's part of the matrix programming that gets us to feel guilty and to label ourselves as unspiritual or negative when we recognize the things that we don't like in our world. Like I look at the images of what happens. I had a video sent to me within the past couple of days of how those soldiers treat the Palestinians in, I don't know if it was Gaza or the West Bank or where exactly it was, but I mean, they were just pushing the people around at will, pushing them to the ground. They weren't shooting them, although they did fire some probably tear gas or some kind of gas canisters at some of the people, but they weren't, the video didn't show them really physically harming them other than pushing them around like they were nothing. Get out of my way. Just do what I tell you to do. I'm the boss. I'm in charge here. Well, things like that, nobody should treat another person like that if they're not doing something wrong, if they're not breaking real laws, if they're not stealing or hurting somebody. Then you got to use an appropriate amount of force, and that's necessary. But in many cases, the people that are the most problematic are the people in uniforms, the people with badges, the people with the guns. And they use force to coerce and to make people do what they want them to do. And they don't realize that they are actually working for a criminal element. So that our soldiers, Memorial Day, and our police force oftentimes are the very lawbreakers that threaten our lives the most. Now, should I not talk about that? Should I not help you to become aware that this is a real issue? Am I being negative by saying, hey, there's an awful lot of people that are really, really sick and they don't get it, and they think they're doing good by abusing other people and overrunning their natural rights as human beings? Is it wrong? Is it negative? Is it unspiritual to point these things out? Some people say so, and they tell me so. Ron, you're not getting it. It's all about light and love. Well, no, it's all about truth and truth. It's all about knowing the reality that we're facing, and it's not good enough to say, well, it's just an illusion. It doesn't matter, Ron. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. People are hurting. People's lives are being abused because of ignorance, because we don't focus on where the problem is. And when we don't see the problem, we'll never find the solution. We first, again, must admit the problem. It's a quintessential element of the awakening process, of the change that we're in. We first have to see where we've been, where we are, and determine where we want to go in the future. And when we do that, the solutions will be there, but they won't be there by ignoring the war and saying, I can't fight against war. I can't fight against Monsanto. I can't fight against the government. Well, fight is a relative term. What do you mean by fight? Telling the truth is all that you need. The only weapon that you need is the sword of truth that penetrates the darkness, penetrates the lies, penetrates the apathy, penetrates and gets people to actually start thinking. And that's what I've been doing with Paradox for a long, long, long time. And I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to stop until we change the world. I'm here to help bring the changes to the world, the solutions to the world that will enable us to have peace on earth and will enable us to show compassion one for another and to allow the process to take place to give birth to the new humanity that is being born on this planet. And the cosmos is conspiring to see that happens, despite the fact that there are those that want to remain entrenched in an old paradigm of control and manipulation And they may be trying to dig their heels in, but it isn't going to happen because we are destined for greater things. We are destined for a golden age, and that golden age is upon us. And I encourage you to look at things without judgment. That's neutrality. It's not, neutrality isn't I don't care what happens. Neutrality is being able to see the negative and the positive result that can occur because the negative is now recognized and acknowledged, and then we can transform it into something good. Well, I don't know if this makes sense to any of you, but it's something that I've been wrestling with over the past day, or actually for my whole life, but it's been on my mind a lot, even though the main thing that's on my mind is something that's really, really good, which I'll talk about in due time. Anyway, thank you for listening. Namaste. God bless you.